Welcome. You're listening to The Real Truth About You. This is a show where we help you to become the best that you can be so that you can live an abundant, a full, and a very blessed life. You can get more information about our shows and more downloads and everything from therealtruthaboutyou.com. Hi, I'm Will Sinclair, and I'm really pumped today because I have my awesome friend Tami Dovell here with me today. Welcome, Tami.
Thank you, Will. I'm excited to be here. This is really nice.
Yeah, it is so good to have you here. Tami is a visionary to me. She is into meditation. She is into living life to the fullest. She's like a truly spiritual being. You kind of followed Stuart Mooney for a while there, right? You're mentoring under him, and he's like a neuroscientist. He's a Buddhist, spirituality, and he studied the effects of mantra meditation on the brain, did he not?
Yes, all that's true. I've had many good teachers, but yeah, he took me under his wing, and incredible man, a scientist. So I always had the spiritual part. That part came very naturally for me, but the scientific portion and to speak in that way and in those terms was a challenge. And yes, so he's just, they studied the brain and what meditation, sound, and mantras do.
Wow. So I remember your website, and it says you went from like a plate thrower to a peacemaker. Can you tell me
True story.
Yeah, you're one of those women who have really excelled in yourself, right? And can you tell me a little bit about your life? Tell us about your life, like you're growing up a little bit, and how you came to be where you're at today with your person. You have a lot of peace about you. And you seem to sense, as a friend of mine, things about me that I didn't even know. It was like hard to be a friend. If I got mad at you, you knew about it without me even talking to you.
But loved you anyway.
You loved me anyway, yeah. Can you just tell us a little bit about your life and how you got here?
Okay, well, you know me, I'm really long-winded, so I'm going to try
good. I'm leaving this whole topic open because I know you're going to delve into a topic that God's going to lead you into, so anyway.
Okay, well, I'm going to put effort into, sort of trying to make it a little bit short and sweet. But yeah, so my childhood, had beautiful parents, but they worked all the time. They weren't around much. And so we didn't have parental guidance, so to speak. They loved us for sure, but we're just so busy working to accumulate things and keep us in the sports and stuff that we spent a lot of time alone. And I had a really busy mind. And so, I just think that was probably not the healthiest space I was in as I moved into my 20s. And I started to get louder thoughts, negative, lots of lack, lack of self-confidence, lots of anger came up, and I would always pretend that I was really happy and push the anger down like I think we do. Nobody
Stuffing,
wants to be. Yes, stuffing. I was a professional stuffer.
Stuffer.
Yeah, it's easy to stuff. It's way easier to stuff than to look.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But at the time, I was doing a lot of energetic healing work, using energetic modalities. So I'd go to courses everywhere and just had a real desire to work with energy. I felt it really strongly, and I just thought it was so fun to work with. However, it came to a place in my life where I realized I was sort of chasing the dragon. It was so easy to go to these courses, so easy to learn about everyone else's stuff and keep very busy, until one day I realized that it's much more difficult to just move into me. And
so it was almost like when you got into all the other things, all the different modalities and courses and whatever you were taking, it helped you not look at yourself and look at what other people, is that what you're saying? Or
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and define myself by, I think that I have this strong desire to help the world. I think we all do at some level. I think there's a part of us we all know we're here to serve. And for me, a large part of that at that point was ego. So it was easier to define myself as, I have 27 healing energetic modalities. I can do this. And yeah, it was much easier to have a definition, much easier to feel like I had I had a purpose.
Right. We could label ourselves.
Right. A label. That's exactly
I'm something.
it. Yes.
You're nothing, but I'm something.
Right. And let me tell you about all the things that I know.
Yeah.
You know? And I was very good at staying very busy, telling myself that everyone needed me, and I was so busy with appointments. And yeah, I told myself it was because I was a good person. And ultimately, it was because I didn't know how to stop. I was scared to look in. Even when I was alone for 5 minutes, my mind would just get so busy and so chaotic. It just felt better to call someone or, you know, somehow occupy my time. And so by the time I was 28, I was very occupied in my mind.
Right. Did you find, okay, so obviously you've come to a point in your life where you've, at the risk of limiting it, you've discovered yourself, who you truly are, or because your life has been transformed, right? Do you find that when we're growing up, all the programming that we get as kids and the things we put into our minds makes a huge stumbling block to being at peace? Or?
Yeah, those are our programs.
Yeah.
And you know, life is a transformational journey, and I'm just grateful for who I am today, which is more than I could have said a year ago even. You know, I think that there's no end. There's only brighter and lighter. And when you delve into what's in there and you stop running, as I learned to meditate and to quiet, I started to see clearly my programs. You know, we all are connected to that one source, and that source showed me what I needed to see in whatever place I was in to heal, to feel, to see the fear that had programmed my life for so long. And for sure, we're programs until we're not, you know?
Tell me about your family. Okay, this is 2016 summer. You've got how many kids? 2?
I have 2. I have a 7-year-old daughter and I have a 4-year-old son.
And you have an awesome husband.
And I have an amazing husband.
Who loves to fish.
He is a fisherman. It's in his blood. He's a newfie. Yeah, and he's very good at it.
Yeah, we're in Canada, by the way.
Right. We're in Saskatchewan, but he's from Newfoundland.
Yeah, that's on the East Coast.
That's on the East Coast, and that's where there's many fishermen. They're very good at fishing out there as they live on the ocean. Yeah, that's their way of living.
What do you think is the biggest hindrance? Like, obviously, you've had quite a change in your life, right?
Huge.
And I notice, like, you've affected my journey, right? And one of the things that Stuart Mooney talks about, he says, awakening, your self-awakening is only half the battle, right? It's the awakening of the collective consciousness of us as humanity, right? Being awakened, and us affecting our awakening, right? Our light, our God, right? In us affects the world around us, right? So the more people that are awakened, the better. And I notice you've like this enlightened, and I don't even know how to put it into words. You're this enlightened, awakened being, right? That has affected my life. I know when I came here, I was very programmed in religion, and not that I didn't have an awareness of God in my life, but it was very structured. And you've taken me down a path that's quite different, and it's come through meditation and things like that. Tell me about that. What would you tell somebody who's searching, right? Who's searching for their life, searching, things aren't right, things aren't going the way they want them to go, or whatever. Somebody comes to you and says, like, my life is not what I want it to be. Tami, help me. What do I do? What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh, I so know how you feel. That's what I tell them. Oh my gosh, everyone on the planet knows how it is to feel like that. Even though when we met, I mean, you've inspired me this whole way along too, for sure. You're amazing. But you're open. So no matter how many, what you had defined for your divine, you were open and you were there. That's amazing. And so I think that if I were going to share anything here, it would be that you already had that established. You knew, you had a very strong sense of God in your heart. And I think that the biggest difference on the journey inward is that we realize that not only is there a divine intelligence that operates everything, this whole 8 billion lives simultaneously, which if you put any thought into that in itself is extraordinary. We forget that we are a part of that. It's not just that we might believe that it's up there and we're down here. It's the journey to recognize that we are that, that's created us and therefore it lives within us.
I think that's been one of the biggest parts of my journey, because I always saw the God that's way out there in heaven, right? And we're not in heaven.
Right.
Right. But that's not the way it is.
No, I don't believe it is. And as I delve into deeper and deeper, the more time we spend inward. So just taking that time to silence and really nurture that part of ourselves, that part of us which is extraordinary, and allow it to guide us, then the stronger that bond with all the consciousness, with the entire universe, with God, with the divinity of all that is, becomes.
Mm-hmm. So how do you, like that, when you're talking about silence, the inner journey, how do you start that? Like somebody's like just day one.
Yeah.
Day one, right? What do I do? Do I sit on my couch and do I listen to music? What do I do? Like, I don't know. Like you have it on your website, which is TamiDovell.com, it's with 2 L's, TamiDovell.com. And on your website, you have a grounding meditation to help people ground and center, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody to do? Because obviously I've found that people who are awakening are people who are coming to a real peace and freedom in their life. They meditate. They're on a spiritual journey. It's not just a materialistic journey, but it's a spiritual journey. So what would you say to somebody who's just starting out, somebody who's listening today, driving in traffic to Toronto or New York or wherever they're, Beijing, and they're going, come on, get out of the way, and I gotta not be like this.
Yeah, I'm so stressed.
I'm so stressed with my life. Is that you? So
I would suggest any form of self-nurture. It's all about really, I talk about silence, talk about moving inward instead of being so busy on the outside. And all of that boils down to really self-nurture. Taking the time in your life, probably the very first step, which is not so difficult. Find something, anything that you enjoy, that makes you feel good about who you are, that somehow connects you to your soul, and do that, and make time in your life to do that. And that will create more space, more desire to do that, because you will instantaneously begin to feel better about who you are. I
notice you talk a lot especially when you lead meditation groups, and which you do a lot of, and you always talk about breathing. What does breathing do? Like I know one of my second podcast was about breathing in the restaurant line or the grocery line when you're getting mad at because they don't have enough tellers open, how to center yourself. Like, what do you do with the breathing? What do you tell people to do when they start meditating?
Oh, for sure. Breath's huge. And not even just with meditating, but for sure with the meditation practice, because you cannot simultaneously give your energy to your thoughts when you're focused on your breath.
So why don't we want to think? Like, do we just turn off our brain, or what is it?
We actually have a reflex in our brain, and a brain is like any other muscle in the body. And so to be able to train your brain and stimulate this reflex, breath will do that. Breath will, you can breathe. You're constantly breathing all the time, so it's nothing anyone needs to teach you. And if you just tune into that breath and make space in your life, I like to gently close my eyes, which you can do anywhere. I like how you said that, in the shopping line or in the library or wherever you are in your life. Mm-hmm. You can find 20-second intervals to breathe, to simply and gently close your eyes and breathe. Breathing will tune you into the moment. It will train the reflex in your brain to stimulate a relaxation throughout your body. It keeps you present breath. It contains a light energy. So every time we breathe, and that's how, we're all connected. We all breathe the same air. That's the oneness of all things. And in it is a component called Higgs boson, which is a light energy. And the more light energy that we take in, or the Chinese call it qi, a life force, whatever you want to call it, the more you take that into your being, the lighter your being becomes, the brighter. So the quieter the mind becomes, the less grip it has on your daily events. So therefore you can move into a flow, rather than a constant battle in your head of where you need to be and when and what's not going right for you and how they should be doing this different. That dialogue sort of just quiets and you just are able to flow through your life.
So quieting the brain, right? I know a lot of times we get stressed out. It's because our brain is going, I'm meant to be somewhere else. I'm meant to be doing something. I'm meant to be this. I'm meant to be that. Oh my God, I forgot to pick up the toothpaste. Oh, I left the kettle on. Oh, and it's all these things in our life, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned about when you're breathing, it brings you into the moment.
Absolutely.
Right? Into the present moment. And that's where peace is.
Right, because every single moment is just happening the way it is in your life, just perfect the way it needs to be. But our brain, its job is to pull us out of the moment, and it's very, very good at it. And so it literally is very, very good at pulling us away from the experience of now, because the brain is 0.7 seconds behind anything that's happening. So even you and I having this conversation now, it's already done, but my brain will kick in and it could say all kinds of things to me like, oh, Tami, you talk too much, or oh, Tami, you shouldn't have said this or that. And I have two choices, I can buy into the dialogue and I can use that sort of negative self-feed and create my next moment with it. Or I can close my eyes. I can take a breath. I can let those thoughts go, recognizing that the present moment is already past and it was what it was meant to be. I can't change it, so why stew on it,
Right.
And so when you can live your life from that space, it creates enormous opportunity because your energy isn't going to the negativity, to the busyness.
So you're saying live in this space in that moment before the brain kicks in and starts to judge everything.
Exactly.
Because the brain is on like a delayed reaction.
Yes.
Right. So something happens and it's in the moment, but then 0.7 seconds later, the brain picks up on it and says, oh, this is happening.
Right. And it decides
but
it
it's
should be
already
different.
happened. So what can you do about it? Right.
Right.
So it's coming back and living in that moment.
Right. Which requires letting go of those thoughts. You can train your brain, which is why I was so lucky to have Stuart as a teacher. Train your brain to let go of those neurological loops. And that, your brain creates a file for every single thing that happens to you. And it's constantly reaching back into those files. But if you live in the files of the past, it will create depression. And if you live in those files of the future, of the way you think it should be and why it isn't, and what the anxiety of what is going to come, you will live in a state of anxiety.
Stress.
Yeah. And so the present moment is the here and now. And it's that part of you, which is source, and so when you recognize that your thoughts are just constantly on a loop, trying to pull you out of where you are, and you just take that breath and gently close your eyes and pull yourself back into this moment, it's like training a muscle at the gym. Eventually, it will get very easy. That reflex will be stimulated so quickly until you are there. This is your permanent experience of the present moment.
So you're saying it's something you can train your brain.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Absolutely. I went from literally multitasking and managing, all the lives around me, thinking I was so popular and so important and everyone needed me, and just chaos, mental, absolute chaos and anger I had such a rage and jealousy and just absolute no genuine self-worth. And on my journey, training my brain and just learning to let the thoughts go and not believe them, not give them my energy, not buy into them, and just take that breath and gently close my eyes. And even if it were 15 seconds, everybody has 15-second intervals through their day. And I would just do it because I was busy, right? I was a mom and I was working, and just to take the time for you, those little intervals. If you're not ready to sit down and meditate, because I remember that was very difficult with a busy mind. And I would tell myself, oh my gosh, I cannot do this. I suck. And I just stop, get on, go with my day. But I suggest to anyone now, even if that's difficult for you and you don't feel you're ready for a meditation, just simply breathing, gently pulling yourself back to the moment, closing your eyes, tiny intervals is a very effective way to train your brain.
So you have to be ready to do this. Like, you have to be at a point in your life where I'm ready to meditate. I'm ready for something new. I'm ready to train my brain.
Right. Absolutely. Or I'm ready to, another language for the same thing is I'm ready to nurture my soul. Who am I? What am I here for? There's got to be more. Mm-hmm. There's got to be more than the day-to-day grind and stressing out. And, I want to feel alive. And if that's the space you're in, then yes, you're ready for sure.
Because I find that you're right. Because some people might be listening to this in the busy downtown Beijing or Hong Kong or Toronto or wherever they are, right? And just life is so busy. But even like, we have the advantage here. We live in a smaller community. We live in a provincial park, right? Where there's a lot of nature around us and stuff. But yet we can still fill our life with busyness, right? Our mind can still, and that's what our mind is trying to do, is fill us with busyness.
Oh yeah, it's its job, and it's really good at it, and It retains information.
I know, like, one of the big arguments I hear is like, don't let your heart rule your brain, right? And it's like, step up and let your brain, your brain deciphers everything and runs your body. And I was actually watching a documentary by Tom Shadyac, who's produced all these Jim Carrey movies like Liar Liar and all those things, and Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy. But anyway, he went on this inner journey himself, right? And I've forgotten what I'm talking about. That is hilarious.
What happens when it's not meant to come out.
We're talking about the
being
business of our brain
in the city, and we live in a provincial park. It's easier to be quiet, but yet the mind will. I can't remember
what it is. I'll pop into my brain another time. This is the beauty of live recordings, unedited, unabridged.
It's perfect.
I would say though, if you're listening to this podcast right now, then you're ready to move on because something's attracted you here, right?
Absolutely.
I know. I keep saying this all the time. Dr. Wayne Dyer says, when the student is ready, the teachers will appear. And that could be, you found this podcast or somebody said something or something just awoken in you, right?
Oh yeah. And I even say that every single night at meditation, because people come and go and they'll be like, Tami, I have no idea why I came here tonight. And I just always suggest that, you know what? It may look random. It might look like your mom dragged you or your girlfriend you couldn't say no to. But if you're here, you're meant to be. And it will plant a seed, a spark. And wherever that takes you is perfect. But there's no random.
Right.
So welcome, welcome to you.
In a different language, we used to say there's no coincidences, just God incidences.
Oh, I love it. That's perfect. And it's a true story. There are no coincidences.
And I think I'm finding so many parallels, like not to just religion and spirituality and God consciousness, but even when you get motivational speakers, right, who have been on the stage for years and years, one of the things they talk about is you are the environment you place yourself in, right? So you become the environment you place yourself in. And when we're talking about the brain, it sparks in me when the brain takes you off in the negativity walk, right? I'm stupid. I'm this, I'm that, right? You don't have to be anywhere. You just have to listen to your brain, and it's telling you stupid things about yourself that aren't true, right? And
Absolutely, which is called awareness.
right. And that, yeah, that's awareness. And it's becoming aware of that point.
And I believe that awareness is simultaneous with acceptance, because at some point in your life you go, okay, so my brain is screaming that I'm going to fail, but you know what? It doesn't have to be that way. I can hear it, and I'm not that. So you know what? I'm not going to give you my energy today, because I am greater than that thought. And you let it go. And that's what, it's one thought after another that you let go. And that is training the brain. And when we take the time to recognize what's in our mind, what is operating, and take a look at it, and you sort of separate yourself. Okay, so that's just what's happening in my head. That doesn't mean it's true. That is an enormous point in your life. That to me is awakening. That's when you go, okay, I am greater. I am heart. I have a soul. I am love.
Now I remember when you said I am heart.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about the brain controlling the body and sending on. Well, when I was watching this Tom Shadyack's documentary called I Am, and he said they interviewed a heart research facility in the US, and they discovered that the heart actually sends more signals to the brain than the brain does to the body.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and so they're talking about this enlightened journey and all this stuff, right? But the heart sends more messages to the brain than the brain does to the body.
And so therefore, if you spend more time to nurture your heart, it would make sense to me that would be conducive to a healthier lifestyle, to nurture that part of you which is in the moment. Your heart feels whatever's happening in this moment. Your heart is present. It's connected. It's only the brain that's kicking in later to decide what it should be. But when you move from that heart space, you're moving from what's happening in you now. So, say I'm feeling nervous right now with you and me having this interview, and I feel nervous in my heart. Well, that's perfect in that moment, but my head will kick in and it will tell me, oh, don't feel nervous. It's okay. And it dictates, it'll say, well, you've done things like this before. What's the difference? And it will try and talk you out of, but the actual experience is only how it feels in that moment in your heart.
Right.
Your head doesn't have to have anything to do with it. And the journey of taking the time to breathe, of closing your eyes and just moving into that moment, or meditation, you moving into the moment and just literally being still when your mind is doing everything it can to pull you away. And you just not now. You stay still. That's it. So simple. And then you will move deeper into your heart, and your heart, being your soul, being the divine in you, will become your guide.
And we're not saying the brain's a bad thing, right? We're kind of saying that we've trained all of our pre-programming over life. We've trained our brain to respond a certain way, and it's feeding our heart, right? And it's a loop that keeps going around that we're trying to break that cycle almost.
Well, what happens is when the brain has too much activity, it's fear. You're fear-based, and you're living your life from a place of fear. But when you move more into your heart and spend more space from your soul, allow your heart to guide you. What do I feel right for me in this moment? You will train your brain to be extraordinarily effective and help you in your life. Whatever you need, it will give you in that moment from a place of the now. So it's possible to have the simultaneous experience. However, it involves really moving into the moment, because then your brain becomes so helpful, so extraordinary. It has everything you need in any moment. It has access to the divine conscious knowledge of all that is. But in order to move from there, it requires developing more nervous pathways in your mind, moving out of the parietal lobes, which 98% of the population move from. The negative lobes of the brain, which are at the back, the parietal lobes, and they have your They call it your karmic lobes of your brain. And when you spend time connected to your heart, to your soul, breathing with your eyes closed, nurturing your soul, you develop nervous pathways to access all the areas of your brain. So you're not functioning any longer from just those negative, and you're, so to speak, released from the clutches of your own mind. And the nervous pathways that are developed, they access all the rest of your mind. It moves up to the frontal lobes, at which point they connect, which is called awakening scientifically. And then they move into all the areas of your brain until your midbrain, or what scientists call the God brain, the miracle brain, is
that we
activated.
also call the third eye, or whatever. Is that different?
No, that's different. Your third eye is your pituitary gland.
Okay.
So it will also activate. Your third DNA strand, that's your pineal gland. It will also activate. But the midbrain is the last part of your brain to activate, which is God consciousness. And so to develop these nervous pathways, not to get too technical, I'm just really blessed to have such a wonderful teacher.
It was Stuart?
Yeah, Stuart Mooney, just,
brain scientist.
A brain, right. Yeah. So he's the scientist. And, it's not like before where 10 years ago we could really believe and know things in our heart and really believe it passionately, but there wasn't the science to prove it. So for so many people, they just couldn't buy it without the science. And now,
kind of like
2016,
saying the world is flat.
Well, exactly.
I believe it's round. No, it's flat. Science has proven that. No.
Yeah. And so now that's not possible because the Hubble telescope has taken us back to 0.3 seconds after the Big Bang with the creation. And so the science is all there to support, and the journey of the mind and the development of nervous pathways to all areas like Albert Einstein had, when they dissected his brain, they thought they were going to see a huge brain because he was so smart. But he actually had developed nervous pathways to access all parts of his brain, creating extraordinary intelligence, which we all have access to in our life if we choose the journey.
I wish I'd actually, when you talk about Albert Einstein, I wish I'd remember some of these quotes, because I heard these quotes that Albert Einstein said, and I think of him as this scientist, mathematician, right? Very brain. Then I heard these quotes that I thought I was listening to a spiritual guru, and it was actually Albert Einstein.
Oh,
right?
yeah. He actually said one of his quotes, which is extraordinary from way back then. He said, "You can't have science without religion, and you cannot have religion without science."
Yes, that's one of the things I heard.
Yeah, which
Powerful.
You think about that.
Yeah.
That is extraordinary. For when he came from, I just got goosebumps.
Yes.
From where he came from to now, like 2016, we're just starting to wrap our head around that. And it's true. They correspond. They go hand in hand. As you move deeper into you, into your heart, into the oneness, into God consciousness, whatever you want to call it, and take the time for you in your life, because we are all the same. Everybody has the same access, and you take the effort in your life to nurture that. Anything's possible. Anything. It's extraordinary. Yeah. That's
the beauty of it all. And I love that analogy you used about air. We all breathe the same air.
True story.
Yeah, true story.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think, when we live highly in our brain, we believe in separatism. We believe that, that guy might be better than me, or I'm better than him, or so-and-so has a lot of money, so he's really, he's famous, he's really made it, but me, I'm kind of like, I barely make my rent, so I'm chopped liver. But if you get out of the brain and you get out of that fear and that separateness and choose not to live from that, and start to recognize that you matter, each and every one of us, no matter what you're doing, you were created perfectly to do what you need to do on this planet, and that you are extraordinary, and begin to nurture that part, everything changes, and you begin to see, yes, we are all one. We have different stories. We have different, something that would hurt me doesn't hurt you. You don't understand it. You think that's silly. Like, what does that matter, Tami? And something that hurts you may not necessarily hurt me, but we hurt. And the more you get out of the mind and the separatism that it causes, and living from the fear, the more you will just genuinely see in your life that we are all one. the journey's the same for each and every one of us. We have fear,
Mm-hmm.
fear-based programs from being a child. And the day you begin to move into them, to quiet, to start to really look at who you are, to accept who you are and stop constantly trying to be something different, your world will change very quickly. It will transform.
Yeah, I think I fell victim almost to a lot of those lies growing up. You start to think I'm no use for anything, or no self, like you said, no self-esteem, and you've experienced quite a difference in your life. Like how would you, if you were to draw a picture of your life right now, what would you say about it? More peaceful.
How great gratitude is the first thing that comes to my head, for sure. Yeah. I am just so thankful for who I am today in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because we all go there, and I just was so blessed to have teachers. And if there's, anything that I can do to give back to the world, to share what I've learned to help me to, it gives me goosebumps. It's my purpose. It's what I'm here for. And I am so thankful. And my husband's very thankful.
I get hit on the head so often with plates, is he?
I had such rage. I had such everything, such a deep, deep inner lack. And, perfect for my journey. That's another thing I just want to say. I want to share with you is that I think we all have this dialogue where we can go one way or another, and we can really believe in who we are and what we know to be true in our hearts, or we can let ourselves get hammered down that we aren't good enough and that one of my biggest programs was, you don't know what it's like to be me. You have no idea how it feels to be me. And you weren't raised like I was. And I was raised to believe that I would never have enough. And you can blame people, like I blame my parents for a long time, and the world around me.
Who doesn't?
Exactly. This is what we do until we don't. Yeah, and that's probably another, you said if you were to paint your picture now, well, in my 20s, the last place I wanted to live was next door to my parents. I'd go over there for supper, and it was really good. I'd be very thanks, Mom and Dad, love you, but I gotta go. And, out of there. And when I leave, I'd be like, oh my gosh, and judging, and it is so nice to live your life without constantly needing to blame someone or judge them, which ultimately was just, judging myself, all the things I couldn't accept in me and couldn't be responsible for. And now I just, my parents are literally my best friends. They are next door to me. They are amazing. And we work together, all of us. I think that it's really important. I think the more light that we let in, the more we connect to the God within and nurture that part of us, the more community is involved, other people, the bigger your world becomes. I start doing things and all of a sudden 25 people are doing it, and it becomes just a wonderful, just the everyday things. And I feel like that happens in every single avenue. Whereas before, when I lived from the fear, all my doors were so closed, and I only opened them if I was in a good enough mood, or if I was in a good enough space, or if I thought that I had enough for them to, in that moment, to give them so they're happy when they leave. You just shut so many doors when you live from that broken space.
I found that I used to, because I came from an abusive past and childhood, and I always found myself blaming others, blaming the guys at school that beat me up, blaming my mother, who she's dead now, but I have a great relationship with, and I found that the more that I blamed and the more that I claimed the abuse, the more I was living in my past.
Oh, totally. It's called the victim.
Yeah.
And it's a really hard place to leave. Really, it takes a lot of strength. We all have the victim. Woe is me. It's so much easier to blame. It is so much easier to blame someone than it is to become responsible for who you are. And so I think I've said before in one of the blogs that you did previously or somewhere, and I believe it truly in my heart, you have to become responsible for who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, however you get there, breathing, nurturing your soul, forgiving.
It's like a choice.
Absolutely.
You have a choice. And I think, when people are people who are not aware don't even know they have to make a choice.
Oh, they're still sleeping.
They're not even listening to this podcast, right?
Absolutely.
So if you listen to this podcast and you're at the point where you're not sure, okay, I don't know about all this. The mere fact is an awareness that there's something in you that you want to change, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that once you get to this awareness, I know I had a point in my life where I used to play mind games with my wife. I was very angry. I used to punch holes in walls and things, but I didn't really see that there was, I knew I had an anger, but I didn't really see there was something wrong. It was just like, that was my normal life, right? And then all of a sudden I got to this point in my life, and some people call that hitting rock bottom, right? Where all of a sudden something happened. My wife said something, and you know my wife, right?
Yes,
I do. She's a very inspired woman.
Yes, she is.
And she just said something, and all of a sudden, click. It was like I just wanted to curl up in a ball on the floor, right? And I realized that my life wasn't normal life. My childhood wasn't normal childhood, or whatever that is, right? But what I'm saying is I came into an awareness that there was a change needed, or there was a choice in front of me. And
Absolutely.
And so that awareness is a good thing, right? Would you say, if you all of a sudden you're angry and then you realize you're angry, that's a good thing?
Oh, for sure. I always say it's like I compare it to this. If you have a chip in the paint on your wall, and it's been there for 3 months, and then one day you notice it and you go, "Oh my God," and your husband will be like, "That chip's been there forever," and I'm like, "And you noticed it that day?" And you will see that it will change. And from the day that you notice it, it may take 2 days and you're up there taking care of it, or it may take 2 months, or it may take 2 years. But from the moment that you're aware of something, the change has already begun. The process is in motion, and it's the exact same thing. We're sound asleep in just the programs of our mind, subconsciously running our life, until one day we wake up and we see, oh my gosh, okay, Tami, you absolutely lose your mind when somebody tells you what to do. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting? So in that moment, I want to do the same thing. I want to scream at the person who just pissed me off. I want to slam my very good ability to communicate down their throat and shut them up forever. Mm-hmm. But instead, in this very moment, I have the awareness that, oh my gosh, look at what I do. And that right there changes everything. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to change what you do. I might still have the same reaction that I had for the last 10 years. However, it will get less reactive and less reactive until one day I go, I can't even blame that on you. I can't even, because I'm aware. Mm-hmm. And you attain awareness through meditation, through connecting to that oneness, through connecting to your heart, through your soul. This is all the same language. And that's just, gently closing your eyes, being aware of your breath. Maybe you're out kayaking. Maybe you love to fish and it just takes, to that special place. Wherever that is.
Go to that special place.
Yeah.
Whether it's your couch or whether it's a walk in the park or whatever it is.
Totally.
Even if it's sitting in your vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe it's going for a drive. Absolutely. Yeah. Whatever it is that just mellows you, that feels good to your soul, and make space for that in your life.
And it's almost like at the start, you try to find that place that, you go to that place that makes you feel good, or meditating, you actually sit and listen to some really nice soothing music and it helps you, right? So you're doing all the things that help you to get into that process. But as you advance, and it is a journey, right? As you advance, that it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what loud or quiet environment, you can still find that inner peace. You can still find yourself breathing and listening to that breathing. You don't need all those external tools to help you.
Oh, for sure. That, teaching meditation now for 4 years and hosting those nights, we have beginners that come, and they don't know what it means to fall into that trance-like state. And so they say, and so we play the soft music, which helps occupy the brain, and I speak so that they can concentrate on my voice. And what happens eventually, and the people who come say, oh my God, Tami, I did it. I got it. Even I did it. It might be the second meditation. It might be that they might have had to come for a full month. Yes. But everybody gets there because everybody has the same brain. Everybody has a brain, and the brain is like a muscle. And if you take the time to develop the nervous pathways, the stimulus is the same, a trance-like piece connected to your heart. And so we can all do this, and it's within. My favorite part, we don't have to go to 27 energetic healing modality courses. Although if we choose to, that's perfect too. But I just mean, while we're busy scrambling out here for the answers, for somebody to help us, to feel better, to blah, 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 I don't know what to do. I just,
find the answers within.
Just move inward.
Yeah.
It is free. It is the same for each and every one of us. It's there all the time. If you're sitting in traffic, move inward. Tune out the radio and go in. Close your eyes. Just breathe in that second.
As long as you're not driving at the time.
Well, good point. No, your eyes might be open then, and you're just focused on breath. You don't necessarily have to close your eyes, but when you do close your eyes, you do turn out. Right, you tune out the outer world.
I in a spiritual vein, right? And I realize not everybody's spiritual, but I come from a Christian background, and in the Bible it says 1,000 years is like a day to God, and a day is like 1,000 years, right? So it's this sense of timelessness. Like we invented time almost, right? But we're in this linear existence. We're born, we live, then we die. So there's a linearity to it. I have found meditation. It's like it's almost like slowing your life down enough that you connect with this timeless God.
Oh, which is the present moment. It's the same thing, and I love it. That's bingo. And once you move from that space, it's so true. You aren't confined by the constricts of time any longer. Ben Howard actually sings a song, and those are the lyrics, and I love it. It gives me goosebumps. Yes, for sure. Time is mind, is thought, is karma. They're all synonymous.
Wow.
Yeah, it is wow. Life is wow. So if you're listening to us today, wow for you. Because what a big day.
Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
You're in your car, give yourself a pat in the back.
Close your eyes and take a deep breath of gratitude into your heart and thank your divine source. Wow. Whether you get it today or, you're driving around 3 months from now and go, oh my God, I get what Will was talking about.
Yes.
That's how this works.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this because you're meant to be listening to it.
Absolutely.
And Tami, you're here, and I just honored that you just came to this talk. And I get so much. I know we're going to shut these microphones off, and all this awesome stuff's going to come out around coffee, right? And I wish I could have had the time for you guys to listen to all of it. But you can go to TamiDovell.com. That's TamiDovell.com, TamiDovell.com. And she has a really cool website. She has a grounding meditation on there. She has audios that you can listen to. Obviously, you're into listening to audios. That's why you're listening to this podcast. And so she's got some cool teachings on there. Go there, TamiDovell.com. Also, if you want to find out more about what we're doing and about the show or get more downloads, go to therealtruthaboutyou.com. That's therealtruthaboutyou.com. We'll be putting up more resources on the website. Tami, thank you for coming in. If there's one thing that you wanted to wrap up with, is there anything that you would want to say?
Absolutely. Love yourself. Love yourself, and the world around you will love you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Will. I've had so much fun here. I love you.
Beautiful words. And you know what? And we just filled out just over 45 minutes or whatever it is. It's just awesome.
Wow.
So thank you for listening in. You're listening to The Real Truth About You. I'm Will Sinclair. Like I said, you can get more at our website, therealtruthaboutyou.com. live your life to the full, make the choice, discover who you are, discover the God in you, and you know what? Have an awesome, awesome, awesome day. Love yourself to pieces because you rock.
Beautiful. Yes. Woo!